Hi, I'm Bart Hansen. I'm the owner and lead instructor for CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time every Monday. If you want to call in your hand, check out the instructions in the video description.
I've been playing a lot of Hold'em, but I've been playing once in a while in this 5-10 home game.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Okay. Yep.
So I had just kind of a theoretical range question I want to ask you.
Sure.
We're playing like 10-handed because a fun player wanted to join us.
Okay.
So I'm under the gun, and it's 5-10, straight 5-10, no antes or straddles this hand.
Yep.
So I open under the gun, and I get called in the cutoff, hijack, button, and big blind.
So you open till 35. Is that your standard open?
Yeah, I opened to 35.
From under the gun, cut off.
From under the gun.
By the way, too, our editor, Anita, you can put Chris's hand here as just sort of a blank hand because I know where he's going. So you open 35 under the gun, cut off, button, and the two blinds call. Is that right?
Cutoff, hijack, button, and big blind.
All right, so cut off, hijack.
Oh, hijack, cutoff, button, and big blind.
Right.
Let's get those two backwards.
Hijack, cut off, button. And some in the big blind. Okay.
And the big blind. So
Okay.
the small blind folds. So there's 180 in the middle.
Okay, yep.
And the hijack and the button are both pretty solid, good players.
Yep.
And the cutoff is an old man, kind of not very good. And the big blind is a Korean reg he can be kind of aggressive, but he's just a reg.
Okay.
All right, so I'm like, all right, well, the flop comes ace-10-4 rainbow.
Okay.
And the big blind checks. And, I'm certainly – so I want to think, like, let's say I have a solid opening range of, like, fives plus and ace-10 suited plus and
Sure.
ace-jack off plus,
Okay.
king-queen,
Mm-hmm.
queen-jack suited. So do I want to think about this spot as what I'm going to do with my range here, or do I want to just strictly play on how my hand hits that flop, if for value, or if I'm going to check fold or check to check call if I miss?
Sure. So we're gonna do this as best as we can. So again, the question is that using Chris's normal UTG open range, which I imagine is going to, like you said, would be fives plus. Is this 10? Is this a 10-handed game, by the way?
It is. It was 9, but a fun player walked in and everyone let him sit. So it's 10-handed.
So fives in a 10-handed game is a little bit light. I would tend to go maybe like sevens plus. And then,
that's fair.
Sevens plus, and then maybe like ace 5 suited, right? Maybe some ace 4. And then, of course, you've got like ace-king, ace-queen, maybe ace-jack suited. If it's 10-handed, you might even pitch ace-jack offsuit. And then like ace-10 suited plus. You do have 10s. Right. You probably don't have
king,
4s.
Queen suited.
Mm-hmm. King, queen suited,
queen suited.
Queen-jack suited, all those things. So are you looking more – I mean, here, first thing that I would say in terms of like C-bet bluffing matrix is that like you've got 4 people in the hand, right? So
three in position.
Right. You can look at this a number of ways. Like, for example, if you had like a suited Broadway here, like king, queen, or king, jack suited, maybe with a backdoor, you could take a really, really small bet. Let's say you had like king, queen, right? You could take a very, very small bet, but I would think that this is the threshold of where I would c-bet into like 4 people, and I wouldn't do it large, and then sort of follow up with a big bet on the turn depending on if only one person called and if they were closing the action. Like if you make a bet and next X calls and then you get another call, I would pretty much just shut it down. You could do that. I would tend to not bet those hands. I think maybe your question might have to do with, hey, what aces am I betting versus checking here too, which can be a little bit more tricky, right?
Well, I guess what my question is do I want to think about my exact hand on this board and what can I get value from and all that? Is that sort of like an exploitable approach versus, what would I do with my entire range here on this kind of a textured flop with 3 opponents left behind me plus 1 that check to me? Like,
well,
is that
I think
too complicated?
I think you might be confusing some particular scenario. I think you might be confusing a couple of concepts, right? So there are certain boards where you might not see bet, like against this particular configuration. Like maybe if in theory, if the board came out like 3-4-5. Now we just went over that, like you don't have ace deuce from under the gun, right? Like you're not going to have the small pairs, so the people in the field have what's called like a nut advantage, right? Like you just don't have a lot of nut hands. So in theory, you might want to check like a low connecting board like that. Also talking about sort of like equity advantage and things like that too. But this is not that board though. Because you have aces and because you have a lot of ace king and because you have tens, this is certainly not a board where where you have to check like against four people. So it is
even if I have like the sevens, eights, the jacks, the queens, the kings.
Well, no. I mean, it is dependent on what you have in your hand.
Okay.
It's not. But that's not against theory, though. You know what I'm saying? Like you might look at a reasonable UTG range in a 10-handed format, and a solver might spit out that you're going to be c-betting at X percent of it. Let's just say that you're c-betting 50% of the time, right? Well, what are the hands that you're not c-betting? Right, what are some of the hands that you're not c-betting in your 50% here on a board?
Pairs.
Yeah, sevens, eights, nines, right? Like maybe a hand like Jack 10, Queen 10, King 10 suited, you might not c-bet into five people with like kings, and then maybe some of your weak aces too that you decide to open, right? So it's all. But then you've got 50% of hands that you are going to see bet. Like I said, I'm just throwing out a number here, Chris. I think you know where I'm going, right? Where you're going to see bet like ace king. You're going to see bet maybe ace. Obviously, you're going to see bet your sets, right? Maybe you do have some checks of like pocket aces sometimes, right? Like for top set. Occasionally, you're going to see bet tens. You're going to see bet ace 10. You're going to see bet ace king. I think what you find is that the more people that are in the hand, the less often you're going to c-bet, and the more often your c-bet is going to be somewhat polar if you don't use a very small sizing. So if you're using like a 50% sizing here and you pump that into a computer and you were c-betting against like 7 people, it would be a very infrequent percentage of the time that you would c-bet. Do you see what I'm saying? It might even be like ace 10 plus, and it might be like some like king queen suited with a backdoor as your primary bluff. Something like that.
And so then if I do bet, then is my hand sort of face up to medium to strong value, and I'm going to get floated with the right hands and fold out the right hands, or does that matter?
Well, but you still have, if you're properly balanced, you still have a fair amount of strong hands that you're c-betting here too, right? So that you can't just be profitably floating.
I'm turning it face up, yeah.
You can't.
Oh, I see. That they don't have the right price to float with certain hands.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't. I mean, it's this. I mean, you like I said. The smaller the sizing that you use, Chris, into multi-way pots, the more hands that you're allowed to bet. Once you start getting into the 40 and the 50% sizing, the c-betting starts to get a little bit polar, and you're really looking at only strong and only weak hands. So, if somebody sort of catches that where you're c-betting far too much on a board like this and you're using large sizing, then yeah, people could call, obviously, to take it away if you check on the turn. But I think that I would definitely be betting ace king here, and I'd be betting ace queen too. Ace jack, if you want to take some hands and check them, that could be one of the hands that you might check. Like I said, you might check like 10. You might check like ace 5, right? Things like that. So I think that you'd find that you'd be fairly balanced here, and just inherently the hands that have just missed this board, you're not really going to c-bet. Like if you were opening like 8-9 suited or something like that, or a pair. Actually, like to start, if you were to look at the hands that you're supposed to c-bet like in a configuration like this, I bet you 8-9 suited with a backdoor actually has a fractionally higher c-bet percentage than like pocket sevens. You know what I mean? Like on ace 10-4. So
you pick up a lot more draws.
Yeah, you can pick up a lot more draws, and there's more double barreling opportunity.
Well,
So
I biffed this. I checked, and when I checked, I was thinking I had ace king.
Oh, okay.
And I checked, and at the time I was like, well, I mean, yeah, I can get called by worse, but these guys are in position. I'm going to bloat a pot from out of position. I just kind of got a little bit lost, and then I thought, well, shit, I could check raise if one of them tries to put out a bet, and that'll look really strong. And so it ended up getting checked through, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then the turn was a jack, which brought a backdoor flush draw, and I think it matched up with the ace.
Okay.
And it got checked to me again. And I thought, this is actually probably a good card for me because a whole bunch of pair plus straight draws are going to call me. A whole bunch of flush draws are going to call me. Pair plus flush draws. There's like a lot of hands that can call. So I bet 150 into 180, trying to go for like thick value against those hands. Is that good?
Well, I think that once you start, now that the turn brings out like a bunch of gut shots and two pair hands that people would play, I mean, I think theory-wise, you're actually probably supposed to check this turn more than necessarily bet it here for large sizing. So, because like if you had bet the flop and then got multiple callers, you very well might check this turn. But now, I don't know how often somebody is checking back a weak ace or something like that. But okay, I just want to move along here because I know the crux was on the flop. So 150 into 180, and what happened? What happened?
Guy in the hijack raised, and the cutoff folded, and the button went all in. So one guy had jacks, and one guy had king queen.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you come away thinking that you gave like a free card away. I mean, something like that.
Basically.
Yeah. No, but I think that you find, I think, like I said, I think it's not, you might be confusing things where it's not, what am I doing with my whole range here? Because there are certain parts of your range that you can check, and there are certain parts of your range that you're going to bet. This is not a c-bet 100 spot, nor is it a check 100 spot. So you have to find out the parts of those ranges that are being checked and what are being bet. And like I said, if you want to look at some of the solvers and stuff, those solvers will help you do that. But the problem is bringing that into live play is that you have to have your opponent's ranges down correctly. You know what I mean? And it's really hard to do. But thanks for the call, Chris. I appreciate it. Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out crushlivepoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA200. Click on the link right there.